Sorry, I just needed a minute. Maybe it's angry. So I feel so privileged to be able to introduce Kiran, or Madame Gandhi. I don't know how you'd like us to...
Oh, no, Kiran, that's my... Hi, everyone. How are you guys? Thank you.
So Kiran is an award-winning artist and activist known for her uplifting, percussive, electronic music and uplifting and positive message about gender liberation and personal power. She began producing music in 2015 after her story running the London Marathon, Free Bleeding to Combat Menstrual Stigma, went viral around the world. She's been listed as Forbes 30 Under 30 in music and BBC 100 Women, and her main stage TED Talk about conscious music consumption, which I know some of you have watched, has been viewed over 1 million times. Waiting for Me, shot in Mumbai, India, which focuses on radical expressions of joy, colour and freedom, won the Music Video Jury Award at the South by Southwest Film Festival. That's how you say it.
That was perfect, yeah. And I think we should show it after this too.
Okay, good. Nice. In 2021. In June 2022, she completed a Master's in Music Science and Technology at Stanford University, where she spent time in Antarctica sampling the sounds of glaciers melting to create empathy and awareness around climate change. Her third studio album, Vibrations, mixed in Dolby Atmos.
Yes, like surround, immersive audio.
Immersive audio surround. I remember my first job was in a cinema, and I remember when we got surround sound, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So it was released in 2022. Following the release of her previous albums, Voices and Visions, Gandhi actively collaborates with other female and gender-expansive people in the industry. Her song, The Future is Female, was featured as the theme song for the 2022 Apple TV docuseries Gutsy, about the world's boldest and bravest women. She also composed the original score for the documentary Periodical about menstrual equity that premiered at South by Southwest in 2023. In June this year, she was awarded the Songwriters Hall of Fame Abe Allman Prize.
Yes.
For excellence in songwriting and leadership. Her mission is to use music as a medium for a positive message, a message about positivity, personal expression, and human thriving. I followed Kiran's career and work for a while. I'm a bit of a super fan. I'll try not to fangirl too much. But I've always been amazed about the way that she's able to, sorry, I shouldn't say she, you're here.
No, it's my joy. I'm so grateful that we made this connection happen.
Yeah, it's great. You always seem like quite ahead of the curve in terms of being very research informed and kind of not going along with trends, but really kind of taking things and pushing things forwards and being really at the forefront of a lot of these conversations, and getting working in this positive activist way that is taking up space in a way that makes sense to you rather than what people say you should do. And I think as students in design and people who work in design and all the creative disciplines that we come from, that's really inspiring, I think. So I'm personally really excited about hearing you talk. That's my little fangirl moment. Would you like me to start by playing that first video?
Yeah, let's play the, do you want to see a music video? Yeah, I think like lights off, volume, music video, theatrics. I have the best story for you, which is that the last time I was in Brighton, I played Great Escape, and just now I walked into this theater and I realized this was the venue that I played The Great Escape. I had no idea that it was going to be the same. It was like very synergistic, meant to be. Because y'all are the design folks, I'm going to show you one more. Is that okay?
Yes!
Okay, great. Thank you for your enthusiastic involvement. The reason so this is the one that I often like to start off with because it really just kind of grounds you into sort of my vision for the project and the music that I do. And the secondary one that I want to show you, See Me Through, yeah. But the second one that I want to show you is very like design and very art design centric. And it was my two friends who are a married couple who do a lot in NFT and, who do a lot of like work in design, in set design, in dance, in NFT, they're a married couple, 2 women, and so I asked them to both star in the film, but also direct it to really experience what it means to be living the female gaze. And so you're quite literally telling your own story. And as 2 queer women, I think so often in media, in Hollywood, it's so over-sexualized, and it's often through like a pornographic male gaze. And so it was just really beautiful and fun to kind of tell a queer story that we felt our grandparents' generation would find beautiful and not feel kind of excluded from. Does that make sense? Yeah, awesome. This is See Me Through.
Check, 1, 2. A little bit louder, a little bit louder, a little bit louder. Yeah, I'm a musician, you know, so we just get it going. Sound check, 1, 2. Will you make it a little bit louder? Is it possible? No, not possible. Should I even use it?
It's the same, no? Yeah.
Same?
For the recording, it doesn't matter, right? It's only the recording is coming through the mic.
We just wanted to keep it quite intimate.
I'm so grateful. Very good.
I'll put a bit of light on though, so we can see you. Is that okay?
How are you? Good, very good. My name is Kiran. I perform as Madame Gandhi. It's my great joy to be here. I want to know who I'm in the room with. Do we have any faculty? Let's start there. Students, faculty right here. We got students. All y'all are students. So what part in your career are you? I'd love to hear. Maybe just shout it out a little bit from this side. Are you just starting out? Are you masters? Are you
urban design and architecture?
Yep.
Yeah.
And how far along are you in the process?
We're just getting started. It's like a 1-year program. And
amazing. Is it a master's?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And do you go right from, I guess in the States with undergrad, did you go right from college to?
Yeah, we just do undergrad and then
Okay, amazing. Thank you. Nadia, my new friend. What about some of the folks right here? How far along are you in the journey? Awesome. Thank you. Is that the same for everybody then?
Yeah.
I understood. Okay, wonderful. So
we've got a couple of graduates and we've got a PhD
Oh wow!
So
Respect.
we've sneaked in.
I feel like the PhD students have no time, so I'm grateful that you're here. Thank you. So, I wanted to start off and tell you a little bit about my journey, and I think in real time, if any questions come up, in fact, if we even want to start with any questions from the videos, I'm happy to address them. I want this to be as useful and as positive for you all. So I'd like to take about 10 minutes and do a little bit of a keynote, tell you my story, and then we'll get into some of the Antarctica stuff. Then we'll take a break, and then we'll close out with a discussion and a Q&A. But right off the bat, is there anything I can answer, anything that piqued your curiosity, heading with yellow hair, anything, any aspect of the
How
design?
big is your team?
Yes, right. So, I actually have to tell you that it's really important for me to have ideas that come from the inside out. And so usually I'll be like on the treadmill or running or waiting for my bags around the carousel in the airport, and I'll listen to my own music and start visualizing what are going to be the music video aesthetics for the song. And then once I have that and I'm writing down the ideas, that's when I start to build the team. Who are people in the industry who are doing this work already? Who's the best person for the job? And even for the first video, Misha Ghosh is a very well-known kind of indie art director in India. And she rejected me 3 times before I actually got her to direct the video. And obviously now we're dear friends and she's hella pressing me to do the next one. But I tell you that because, when you have a vision, it's very important to just be patient. If, Misha would be like, sorry, I'm not free in October. Here's some other video directors for you to hit up. Or, oh, sorry, the budget's too small. And I'd be like, no problem. Here's another budget that I was able to pull. No problem. I'll wait till you're free. Because I think when you believe in someone and something, it's better to just fully complete the vision rather than kind of half-assing it just to push it through. And to this day, that video was 3 years old, See Me Through is 4 years old, but for me it's timeless. I know that I'll be showing these videos when I'm 50 lecturing, when I'm 70 lecturing, and I'll be so proud of them. So it's important to just get it right in the moment and make art that transcends time. I think our culture is so TikTok obsessed and Instagram obsessed, and everything's like, get it up, quick, That's all fine, but also we're cultivating a generation of goldfish who have a 3-second memory, and I don't know if I'm interested in burnout trying to meet the hectic demand. I'd rather make art that has teeth, art that has greatness, art that has depth of scale and scope. And so I think as long as you can feel rooted in those values, you don't feel overwhelmed by not meeting the capitalistic demands of what's coming. I'd rather have 2 super strong videos than trying to pull up random reels on my Instagram to show you, right? So there's this kind of trade-off between making stuff that's there to last versus the quick stuff. We need a bit of both, but yeah, I think a timeless career is probably more preferable than meeting the teenage needs of the moment. Other questions, please? Yes?
I'm sorry.
Please. It's my joy. It's much better to answer your question.
So do I have to stand up?
No.
I have 2 questions.
Please.
And I don't want to be rude, but the first one is, when did you study Brighton? I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Did you study Brighton?
No, I didn't study at Brighton. I actually. Yes. No, go ahead.
What's the reason?
That I'm here, yeah. Because Sally and I are good friends on the internet, and for me, it's my joy to be able to bring this work to students. As someone who has been a student my whole life, whenever there's an opportunity to come and to give this message and this inspiration, it's my joy. When I was a student, there was very few people coming and speaking about their careers from a sense of love and freedom. It was always like, here's how to finesse your resume, here's all the 100 things you have to do to get this job, and I never felt inspired. So I'm coming from a place of love, and then also I was already in London for the week working on something else, so it was an easy train ride. I just got here. Another second question.
The first, you answered my second question as well, so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And if there's any other questions, I'm here for you. Please, another question. Anything else I can cover? Yes?
How did you find your creative style or the way you want to express yourself? Is it getting inspired by other artists, or do you want to do something that was unique to yourself?
Yes, it's a great question. Especially living in LA, where the whole industry is pumping out, art, creative, people's fame on Hollywood. It's like a push and pull between being inspired from the outside and then making sure you're listening to yourself think. One immediate thing that I recommend is really like turning off Instagram and all these things for like a week or two at a time. It's really profound how quickly we can come back to ourselves, but it's also equally distracting how easily we can leave ourselves. I love to spend times in cities like London, like here on the subway, on the tube, looking around, what are the kids wearing, what are the cool frames these days, what's the hairstyle, like, it's nice to kind of tap in and draw inspiration, but then it's also really refreshing to be like, what is my authentic voice? What is my essential contribution? If you take nothing away from this talk today, that's the number one thing you should write down and ask yourself. What is my essential contribution? And moreover, what lights me up? Because if I optimize for my own joy, if I optimize for the things that I love greatly, that is I'll always show up for, I always have energy to give. Getting on planes is no longer draining. Managing teams is not draining. Responding to irritating emails is not draining, because the love for the larger purpose is a strong force. So the question is, what is my essential contribution? What lights me up? How can I optimize for my own joy? And then finally, what is a purpose that I care deeply about? How can I use my light, my art, my talent, my design to really contribute to something that I care deeply about? And how do we think about legacy? If I were to leave the planet tomorrow, did I create joy in the small ways that I was able to? Did I leave the world a little bit better? Now some people, they don't resonate with this question. And I think the artist, ultimately art is led by purpose. It's very hard to be an artist and sustain it. The only thing we have is our love and our purpose. Every other day it's like, ooh, money's not coming in this month, or this person doesn't like your art, or the next person is so much bigger and better at what they do than you are. The internal, negative demons can be there so often. So really coming back to a sense of purpose, coming back to the inner light, that's key. When you ask me about, where do I get my creativity and my aesthetic from, inner child. It's definitely like 8-year-old self, I think all of us can take a moment and be like, how are we as kids? Because there's a very unique and refreshing purity about our personality as kids that can inform, to a certain extent, not fully, but to a certain extent, what comes naturally to us. What is something that we have been doing? How do we look at our track record and say, I've been like this since I was out the womb. Whether I want to keep denying it or not, this is my truth. For me personally, that's always been my music. As a kid, I grew up in New York City. I had 2 fairly traditional Indian parents. And now I'm moving on from the question. I'm starting the talk. Are you good with that? You're going to naturally segue into the talk. Thank you for kicking it off. And thank you for those who asked questions. But I grew up in New York City. I had 2 fairly traditional Indian parents. And I had this school bus driver named Harrison. He was like this funky black hip hop kind of vibe. He always knew the newest rap on the internet. It was the coolest. It was 1994. And so in front of all the parents, like the private school bougie parents, he would play classical music on the radio station while we were entering the school bus to go to school. But then as soon as the door would close and we would drive away, he would turn it back to the hip hop station, okay? So the fun thing is that we were all kindergartners listening to Nas and Lauryn Hill, and as a young person, I would just light up. I was like, this is so cool. I remember learning the lyrics. I also remember thinking, wow, Nas is living in New York City just like I am, but this artist's reality, based on the lyrics that I'm hearing as a 5-year-old, as a 6-year-old, are so different than my reality. And even though I didn't have the vocabulary for it at a young age, what clicked in my mind is that music is this rich opportunity for storytelling. And really, it's not just to talk about music. Art is a rich opportunity for storytelling. Design is one of the biggest places we talk about empathy. How do you design an experience that empathizes with the user, that caters to their journey map, that allows them to have a slightly better life at each part of the design? It's quite profound, actually. And so as a young person, I just knew music lit me up. It made me feel happy. I also knew that when I'd watch some of the music videos on the internet, or not on television at that time, there was so much misogyny in there. With, a lot of misogyny in the way that music videos are shown, sexism, women being objectified, all these kinds of things, very little queer or trans representation, obviously. And also very constructed realities of what it means to be black in America. I mean, there were so many things that were so obviously problematic. But in the same way, music can be used to oppress and perpetuate stereotypes and problematic norms. There's also such a rich opportunity for storytelling, for imagining the world we wish that we lived in, for designing for the future that we want us all to drive towards. And this is why we need the artists. We need the artists to take a step away from society and to be able to say, okay, this is the hopeful, positive future that I envision for all of us. This is what it could possibly look like. And sometimes I take my own imagination for granted. I'm like, duh, like of course it should be this. And for others, they're very centered in the present reality of what's happening. But even if you look at one of the most famous songs today, Imagine, John Lennon and Yoko Ono, who recently she was finally credited on that song, you know, it fills people with hope to understand where are we going, where are we headed. So at a young age, I understood that my passion is somewhere around using music for social good. And I also grew up with parents who very much were like, we've given you 3 kids, an amazing life to make the world a better place. Like your education is covered, you have food in your belly, roof over your head, like you're living in New York City, like you have everything you need. Go and make the world a better place. So I appreciated that. I don't think they ever thought it was going to be through my music and art. I think they always imagined me like, you know, working for Obama in the White House or something. And I like used to always do those internships and I would be so bored. I would be like, oh, is it the lunch break yet? Like this is so boring. And so, you know, ultimately we have to be authentic to ourselves. We have to notice, when am I procrastinating? When am I hella not showing up? It's okay for me to like get it done and to push through and to learn the discipline of doing something that makes me feel uncomfortable, absolutely. But it's also okay over time to start noticing your own data and your own patterns and be like, listen, new plan, somebody else is really good at that, it's not for me, it's boring for me. And again, we don't want to judge that without going through the experience. You know, we want to participate. But there's such an opportunity for all of you to really start like clearing space for what is the thing? What is my essential contribution? What is my talent that lights other people up? What do other people affirm within me? What can I be contributing? When I'm in a team, what is the role I really enjoy doing? Am I the team leader? Am I the designer? Am I the more quiet person or the more extroverted person? Self-awareness. And again, a meditation practice, looking inward, understanding the self, journaling. Self-awareness is such an underappreciated value when it comes to the arts. You have a lot of personalities when it comes to the arts. It's nice to work with people who are really talented and also nice to work with. Rare combination. So if you have that combination, you'll always be employed. You know, even I'm on the journey of that. So that was my childhood. You know, New York City, Mumbai, India. My parents are Indian. I spent 3 years living in India. I loved that. My Bollywood career, you know, learning how to bhangra dance and all of that. When I got to college, you know, my parents were really pushing me more in this like career around public speaking, policy, and it just wasn't for me. I would find myself stressed eating bad food and just like, yeah, on Facebook all day, you know. So you have to pay attention to what drains you and what lights you up. When I was leaving my mayor's internship that year, I was interning with the mayor of DC. There was a huge protest outside in the streets. Huge protest. I was like, what are you guys protesting? And it turns out the very mayor that I was working for had signed a super corrupt deal to close down a homeless shelter and make room for super expensive condos. And you could tell that because he passed and allowed the law, he was pocketing a lot of the money that was coming in. It was a very corrupt and very clear operation. And really one of those things it's very hard to prove, so it requires the activists and the protesters. And I had this moment where I was like, I don't want to participate in the optics of having a mayor's internship on my resume to then potentially get another job that I don't actually want. I would much rather be on the side that I consciously know I align with, which is the activists and the drummers. And so I remember taking off my internship badge and just putting it away. And I'm cool to no longer do this again. And I walked to the other side and I just joined the drummers and I started playing on the other side. And then later that day I was invited to another musical gathering where people were reading their poetry, playing their music, and talking about how do we organize around bringing awareness to the fact that this homeless shelter has been closed down for a really corrupt reason. And lo and behold, the activism worked because a year and a half later he was removed from office and a new mayor was elected. And so that really spoke to me. It gave me chills. It made me feel lit up. I also felt more close and friends with the people I was hanging with in that community than the kind of boring internship that I was at that year. And so again, you know, over my life and to this day, time and time again, I find myself getting distracted on the path. Like, oh, maybe I'm not meant to be a musician, maybe I'm meant to do this other thing. And the path is like, I don't know why you're confused. That's not for you. This is the path. And so that's why I invite you time and time again to come back. What is my essential contribution? What are the things that I'm good at? When I'm lit up, do I have the possibility to light somebody else up? I got my first job working in music. I was working at Interscope Records right out of college, so I was 22. That was an amazing experience because, again, I was working in the music industry. I was grateful. I didn't mention this yet, but my main instrument growing up as a kid was the drums. I think my dad, again, was super encouraging of my drumming just to get me into a good college, like as a diversity check mark, like unique activity, rather than genuinely thinking I was going to go and become a drummer. But I got this job at Interscope Records. So that's Lady Gaga, that's Kendrick Lamar. I'm at the internship, or the record label, like the job, and I'm doing my number crunching. It's been a year, it's been 2 years. I'm grateful as a young person to have a job in TEEF. I'm analyzing Spotify streams, YouTube views. It's an interesting job, it's a relevant job. It's not like I'm getting somebody else's coffee. I was very grateful. At the same time, I'm not playing my music. It's still a desk job. And I felt very jealous of my friends who were going on tour with Katy Perry or, Justin Bieber. And I particularly love Justin Bieber. And so I was like, jealousy, and again, I hope that you take this away, jealousy is, can be a dark emotion if we use it to throw shade or bad behavior to somebody else. But jealousy can be a very useful emotion because it can also show us what it is that we want for our own life. And it was a very important moment for me where I was like, I'm a qualified drummer. Kiran, if this is something that you want to do, go for it. And I remember MIA got signed to the label that year. Are there any MIA fans in the room? Any of you folks know MIA? Yeah, amazing Sri Lankan British artist, Grammy Award-winning power player. And I always loved her work. And she had a meeting at the office that day that I remember asking after she left the meeting, does MIA need a drummer? Maybe somebody brown, maybe somebody female. And so, if you don't take any, again, another thing that I want to share with you is stay betting on yourself, gently. Stay betting on yourself, very gently. Throw your name in the ring. What that teaches you is the discipline around getting rejected. We are so afraid to get rejected. No problem. Doesn't matter. That wasn't for you. Great bravery. Gentle betting on yourself. Throwing your name in the ring. Signing up. If you weren't qualified, no problem. If you weren't ready, no problem. There's always something for you to learn. Can you be so brave as to bet on yourself? Can you be so brave as to throw your name in the hat? Can you be so brave as to just reach a little bit more and show yourself possibilities that you didn't know were available to you? And sometimes I get superstitious with my goals, and we tell the person left or right, parents, friends, they immediately, the naysayers. But we have to have compassion for them because ultimately others are limiting their own potential. No. And we have to say, I don't want to participate in that. I actually want to push myself so that I can show you what's possible. I want to push myself so that I can show you what is available for you as well, instead of all of us making ourselves small. Does that make sense? May we be so brave and so humble to gently bet on ourselves. We'll always have something to learn, or you'll be stepping into greatness that you did not know was available. And again, we are afraid to shine our light and to take up space and to be big and brave because we don't want to offend somebody else, irritate them, rub them the wrong way. But again, instead of us being jealous of one another, we have to say, thank you for showing me what's possible. Thank you for showing me what I want for my own life. You and I have walked a similar path, and look what magic and alchemy you've been able to do. I too want to access that for myself. And that's true for me personally when it comes to my running. I went to Harvard Business School. I was going to continue on the music industry path rather than the drumming path. I had gotten the tour with MIA drumming for her all around the world, but I also got into business school. So again, I was like half-half. I wasn't fully betting on my own career. I was still padding it with being able to be a business thinker in the music industry and maybe go work for Spotify or whatever after that. So I'm in my second year of Harvard Business School. It's 2015. And I'm like, I just come back from the MIA tour, my health is not so good, I'm not looking so cute, it's late nights, eating badly, all of that. And my second year, I remember being very jealous of the runners on the Charles River. And I'm just like, who are these people who get up at 6 in the morning when it's freezing, hailing, and they happy, running, jogging, skipping, like it's nothing, with their hats and their like gloves. What is this? Like I was barely making it to class at 9 a.m. As you all can see, timeliness is not my strongest suit. And so I felt quite jealous, amazed by these people. I was like, I too want to be like these runners. And so slowly I started to realize, I said, again, betting on yourself. What's the worst that can happen? I'll Uber myself home. Okay, I have my phone. What's the worst that can happen if I start gently running? You inspired by other runners? Go and run. What's the problem? So slowly I started to run 3 miles. I'll be so proud of myself. 4 miles, 6 miles. Over time, months. I remember my first 10 mile. I'll never forget it to this day. I was so proud. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know it was possible. Wow. And not sprinting. I was casually jogging. Good music. It's gentle. But I felt so proud of myself. A friend of mine, again, including me, taking a bet on me. She said, Kiran, why don't you come run the London Marathon with me? I said, you're crazy. But again, I thought the same thing. I said, worst case scenario, even if I hit 17 miles, like that's a glorious accomplishment. Like, relatively speaking, no problem. What's the worst? So we have to be gentle with ourselves when we take risks. What's the worst that can happen? I'd rather take the risk and come a little bit short than not take the risk at all. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Are you with me? Very good. So she convinced me to go out to London to run the London Marathon. I think the max I had run at that point was, again, maybe 15 miles at Harvard. I said, listen, let's go, let's try it. She was so positive, encouraging. My brother had gone to Harrow School for Boys. My parents were living in London at the time, so it was very family-friendly vibe. My dad wore a shirt with my face on it, though it looked kind of like a funeral. Like instead of like a cheer shirt, it kind of was like may she rest in peace. But low-key with the marathon, I felt that. I was like, yeah, may she rest in peace, may she rest in power at the end of this marathon. So 2015, I get to the start line of the London Marathon. I just graduated from Harvard Business School. My family's with me. My best friend is with me. She's encouraged me to do this amazing thing. I'm really grateful. What was actually just an opportunity to, clean up myself after the MIA tour has turned into this incredible thing that I never thought I would do. And I get to the start line of the London Marathon, and I realize I'm about to be on day 1 of my period. And for those of you who do not have a period in this room, let me tell you what you're not trying to do on the first day of your cycle. It's run 42 kilometers, 26 miles. And so like many of us who have been caught unprepared, I just started evaluating my options. I'm like, okay, a toilet paper quick fix, not gonna work in this scenario. A pad, I didn't have one, plus it causes chafing. A tampon, I'm sure it would have been fine, but I didn't want like a half in, half out situation while I was trying to run. I didn't really know if that was appropriate for like the nature of going for a 5-hour or 4-hour run. I also, like on my own cycle when I was training, I would just rest for 3 days. I wasn't that pressed to like get after it, just gently relax, and then when you feel better, start running. So I felt very, what do people do in this situation? Menstrual cup, I didn't have one at this time. I said, I would rather bleed freely and run than use these products that I don't know if are completely appropriate for the job at hand. And I knew this was radical. I never really knew of anybody else doing it, but I definitely was on my feminist, MIA, punk rock mentality. And I sort of didn't know what would happen, but I knew I preferred that choice than using uncomfortable products for the moment. So I started to run. I'm bleeding at this point, and I'm feeling amazing. Wow, people who bleed are amazing. We're so awesome. This is rad. I feel amazing. Never felt this good. How come we don't talk about this? How can it be that every day, all around the world, half of the population is waking up and at some point in their life are bleeding? And not only are we not celebrating it, we're hiding it away in shame and pretending like it didn't happen because somewhere along the way we were taught that this is disgusting, that our bodies are inappropriate, and that nobody wants to know about it. How about no? How about this is amazing? How about we've given birth to the human population? Wow. How about every single day all around the world people are leading conferences, speaking in schools, studying, teaching, running business meetings, parenting, and they're bleeding. Why are we not celebrating this? This is amazing. And I thought, wow, if somebody else was running and they didn't cut themselves, but they still bleeding and running, it would be cute. Wow, amazing. So I also thought, listen, how are you going to shame a marathoner? Why don't you come run 42 kilometers bleeding, and then we can have a conversation? So I knew there was power in the choice. And in a way, you can argue it is a design choice, because I don't think the story would have gone viral if I was bleeding in an office meeting. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think people like, bro, like, you're bleeding on our chairs. Like, we're trying to just get some work done here, right? So there's a design choice in how the sort of activism ended up playing out. I'm not in touch with anybody else. I'm doing a heroic thing. I'm crossing the finish line, and I'm using the story and the visuals of me bleeding to tell a story. And at that time, Donald Trump was running against Hillary Clinton in the election. The future is female was a widely used hashtag. People were really stepping into this kind of new wave of feminism around celebrating what women's bodies do, including gender-conforming, trans folks, gender non-binary, different folks of gender-expansive identities in the conversation. It was a really profound time. And so the story went completely viral. And it started this conversation around, you know, what does it mean to have menstrual equity in different contexts? What does it mean for us to destigmatize, to actually speak comfortably and confidently and naturally about what our bodies are doing? And, you know, the interesting thing is that stigma is actually the most effective form of oppression because it's denying us the opportunity to talk comfortably and confidently about what we're doing. And even if you look at to this day, the fact that we have revolutionized how we speak about this topic, the education around endometriosis, fibroids, bleeding, the education in the past 6 years alone has just skyrocketed. People didn't know that there was so much disease and trauma around bleeding because no one's talking about it. And so there's one thing alone, which is the aesthetics. That's gross. I don't want to hear about that. That's all fine. It's immaturity. But the missed opportunity is huge. People in the prison system are going without care. People, obviously, in places like India, where my family is from, are going without care. They're staying home from school. I mean, the impact of stigma around menstrual health is literally causing the very global lack of equality that we're all fighting for. So it was this profound conversation that just sort of opened this whole thing up. And again, can you bet on yourself? Can you listen to your own voice? Can you say, I don't know about other people, but I don't want to use those uncomfortable things. It's my run. I'm going to optimize for my own joy. Can you go first? Can you be so brave as to listen to yourself? It's so interesting because I would have never thought that that story and that choice would have been the thing that ended up launching my career. But it's amazing what a little bit of bravery can do. And I think because I personally felt proud of the run, that alone gave me the strength to withstand a lot of the negativity online. But if we've not learned anything about the way the internet works and virality, even these past 2 weeks alone, when things are polarized, that's actually what brings the most awareness to a conversation because it stays trending, it stays in dialogue. And it actually shows you, if everybody hates what you're doing, probably not the best direction. If everybody loves what you're doing, you're not really moving the world forward. If you right in the middle, where half are like, oh, cool, good. And the other half are like, this is gross, da-da-da-da. It's like, cool, let the games begin. Now we're creating real social change. This is where bravery is required. So that sort of in between, when you're making your art, and you always remember, if you have a little bit of polarity, just a gentle, healthy amount of discussion, dialogue, now you're an artist with work. Now you're an artist where somebody says, oh, I really love your work. People used to say this to me, I'm like, what work? You know, like, what are you talking about? But it's this concept of, I've put an idea out into the planet that's now creating a shift. It's affecting the way we think. It's shifting consciousness. It's making something more in the cultural awareness that wasn't there before. Wow, what a gift. What bravery. What kindness. What intelligence. May we all step into this. So that was the marathon story. The past 8 years of my life has been music, speaking, activism, mentoring, you know, going into the prison system and teaching young people drumming, DJing, so that they themselves, when they come out of the Knott Hall, they have skills-based passion that they can step into. Mentoring, you know, young people at high schools and middle schools especially, all the young girls' schools. It's like my joy when I sit around the table and all the girls are like, well, what about this and what about this? I'm like, I was you. Like, this is so meaningful for me. And then music, you know, November, it will be my US tour. I'm really excited about that. If anyone happens to be in the States in November, please come as my guest. And then hopefully a Europe tour next year. See you all on the sooner side, I hope. So I'll just pause there before we shift into some of the later project, the Antarctica stuff. But I'd actually love to take a few questions and then we can break. Please.
I love the story about you being a drummer and I, you know, it's something I haven't thought about And I think it was kind of like one of my first sort of like feminist kind
Yes.
of demonstrations
Yeah.
of my power, and I did it because it was cool, you know. Yeah, and it was a really big part of my life, you know. And I was just listening to what you were saying about the kind of, you know, music being this like mouthpiece for kind of protest, and part of my research outputs that I want to do as part of my PhD is going to be kind of a film thinking,
Wow.
and I'll be working with people with visual impairments as well, and I think that those people that I'll be working with, I really feel like a draw towards doing things with sound, you know. And so yeah, it's really inspirational to think about it like that. I kind of feel like it's almost like you know, every day needs a soundtrack, you know, every moment of your life needs a kind of a tune to carry it, you know. So I just thought I'd just be interested to hear like if you have got any experiences of, you know, collaborative kind of music making that might fit this kind of
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'll give you the most direct example because of your work with folks with different abilities, which is so incredible. I have a TED talk that I gave in 2018 where I talked about music being accessible to folks who are hard of hearing.
Yeah.
And so much of my work has been how can we be inclusive of different ages, different genders, different racial ethnicities, all these kinds of things, languages. But on a personal level, I've been unaware of being inclusive to folks who are hard of hearing. And that journey opened up for me when I had a fan who would come and tell me that they connect to the bass, like physically they come and touch the bass in my show so that they can feel the music in their body because they can't hear it. And it was such a light, like profound moment for me. So I'll make sure that you have that TED talk, but the idea is the person who signed all of my music, I performed 2 or 3 songs live, and she had done the sign language. She has this very amazing system for signing music. So she has 4 levels, which is basically the vocals, the synthesizers, the bass, and then the drums. And she actually musically signed what's happening in the audio for the folks. And so, you know, now moving forward since then, even on my rider, when the advanced shows, we request folks who can do the sign language in case there's someone who's hard to hear. So that's one direct example. In terms of scoring music for everyday life, I mean, you're inspiring me. Like, I think there's a lot of times where I want to write about more surface level things, but I don't because I'm like, no, now my project is deep and profound. We don't have time to talk about mundane shit that everybody else is talking about. But when I hear you say that, I'm like, that is also kind of refreshing to be like, what is the day today? Can we actually be celebrating all aspects of our life? And can we be making choices and design choices in our day that actually they're all meaningful and worth writing lyrics about? And then there was one other aspect of your question that I wanted to touch on. Conscious lyrics, drumming, feminism. You tell me. Collaboration. I have a very dear friend of mine who's blind, who's in India and meeting people, and she has a school for the blind. And she was my roommate in this fellowship that I had done in Bangalore in 2019. And it was just so sweet because I learned just so much from her ableism, just to the extent that she was like, I would be always late for the fellow meetings, and she would like find her way to my bed in the hotel room and like wake me up, and she'd be like, energy. And then I would watch her, you know, find her way around the room. And once she'd done it once in the hotel room, then she's mapped out the whole thing. She knows where it is. And so that may not be directly related to music, but a lot of folks who are blind, they use echolocation by whistling and seeing how big or small the room is. I think there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to being inclusive and designing for folks who are differently able. Thank you. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me today that actually, I'm going to take the umbrella and almost get advice to talk about something like but actually just hearing that you worked within the music industry as a very corporate thing, and I asked this as someone who has graduated from system design course, but also many years ago was also on that
In the industry.
Yeah. It is very much an industry, and I think the way that you talk about this is like the joy and pure joy of creating sound so much. And I guess I'm just really, I think as someone who had to walk away from it, you know, even the experience of being very white man joy, I feel more joy as musicians.
Yes, yes.
And I guess I'm just wondering how you managed to hold on to that so purely, particularly having been in that very industry, which is so data driven, and particularly as it's moved on and transitioned.
Yes.
And also
Yes, yes. This is so refreshing. I mean, I feel you've answered the question that joy is radical. Wow. Even back in the day, I used to feel like when I pull up to the venue and the sound person is like, Madam, what? Like, what is this project? Don't give a shit. Like, I don't really want to be here. Like, I have no idea who you are. Everyone treats me badly, so I'm also going to bring bad vibes. I used to be really offended and really take it personally. Can you spell Gandhi right? And like, actually, can you put the drums there and not here? Like, what's your problem, right? Because I was young. I was, I don't know, 24 or something like that. I didn't know. But the past few years, it's been such an amazing opportunity for me to shift into my own leadership and come with great humility, great awareness of the other person's experience, to come and walk in my power through joy, through kindness, not walk in my power through diva and entitlement. Very different. And wow, because I see that so rarely in the industry, and when I see it, I'm like, wow, how are you so nice? You don't need to be that nice. Like, that's a superpower to me. And I'm not 10 out of 10. You know, I'm on the journey too. If I haven't slept, it's a different story. If I'm under-caffeinated, it's a different story. I try to keep the meditation and the vibes high, but also be self-aware. But now it's my great joy to come and to actually connect. You know, I always like to know the astrological sign of the sound people. I'm like, are you a Pisces? And then they'll be like, yes. And I'm like, I knew it. And so then there's an immediate vibe. You know, that person, they can relax into this space. And I'm like, okay, cool. You like to play the drums? Oh, that's cool. I used to be a drummer back in 2002. You know, so there's like an immediate, like we all in the same cool, positive energy. So, you've answered the key of the question. If you can optimize for your own joy, you always have medicine to give. Do not zero bandwidth. And I've been both. I've been zero bandwidth. And I watch the immediate reflection of my life. People are moody to me, they're rude, they don't care, they don't make eye contact. When I'm in my own positive, cool vibration, the barista's like, wow, it's my great joy to make you your coffee this morning. Like, wow, thank you. You know, like it's an immediate, I go through the TSA security and they're like, wow, nice outfit. I'm like, oh, thank you. You made my fucking day. You know, so it's like small things. Joy begets joy. Moodiness begets moodiness. So the radical opportunity there is not only optimizing for your own joy, but remembering that the levers are within us. The levers are within us. So easy to blame. That person did this. That person did that. That person's rude. The real opportunity is, why are they rude? They having a tough day. Can you alchemize it? You control 50% of the energy. Can you stand in your power to make the situation sweeter? So that's it, you know, and I think because I'm no longer interfacing with a lot of these oppressive forces on a daily basis, my energy is not stretched thin. I'm curating the people who affirm me and make me feel good. I'm spending a lot of time alone to make sure that that's coming from the inside out. And then when I am in those spaces, I feel the respect because I'm not believed in making myself small. I'm not participating. But you're right. Our environments are highly influential. So we have to be so smart as to curate our environments. That's very important. So that's another radical choice, you know. Junk food is not just food. Junk is what we're consuming in our shows, consuming on our Instagram, who we're surrounding ourselves with. Can we be so meticulous in designing for optimizing things that make us better humans? So I've spoken just now, but you've answered the question, which is that joy is the radical opportunity. Yes, thank you.
I want to ask the similar question that I asked before, and you talked about the very inspiring and motivation and these things, and I agree with you about that we should explore in ourselves because the key is here, not in the world and everything. I want to ask that I want to ask what is the difference between someone can handle or solve the problem with themselves and with other people. Is something I search for the word because I don't know the English.
Yes.
Inherent or it's occurred.
Okay.
For example, you born to be this,
Yes.
or you just learn to how to do this.
Yeah,
It's my main question.
I think it's both. It's, you know, if you look at the greats, relates. If you look at even the Kanye West, if anyone watched the documentary they put out about him, the main message that I took away is this thing of like, I believe myself, I believe I'm that guy, therefore I'm driving towards that. So whatever we think in our brain is the reality that manifests. If I want to be singing and drumming and I'm putting my effort into music, arts, the things that I'm posting on my social media are only me and my drumming and my music. That's the reality that continues to get affirmed and the kinds of opportunities, and that's the path that develops. Or I might go and take more drumming lessons or DJ lessons. That's the path I want to affirm. For me, I've also, especially in the pandemic, I ended up letting go of no alcohol, fully done, no smoking, no nothing. Because in LA, and as a musician especially, they're happy to just give you free drinks, bad food for you, you're eating at 2 in the morning. I had to create a lot of boundaries after the pandemic because I realized that was negatively impacting me. And I share that with you because my life, even though it's dedicated to music, I had to take a little bit of a spiritual veer where I focused a lot more on my practice of meditation, a lot more on acro yoga, doing my 200-hour yoga teacher training certification. And that's not in the bio, that's just for my fucking mental health so I can show up properly, you know, so that when I'm on the road, I know how to stretch my own body. I can go for a run and meditate. Like, so, you know, you ask whether things are from within or from without. It's both and. The self-awareness drives the choices of how we want to cultivate our life. And I knew that music and all that is fine, but it's going to be a sinking ship if I continue in this kind of hectic way, participating in a lot of these things that are actually not good for me. And taking a pause to do my yoga, my meditation, eating fully plant-based now, like just cleaning up a lot of things, you just watch, the chakras are aligned. And when they're out of alignment, it's so obvious because I've chosen that as a high value for my life. So that's one thing. Is that helpful?
Actually,
Yes.
I want to exactly ask what happened that someone continued and someone stopped. I was thinking that maybe we are all in one. For
Yes.
example, we are all human, are one, and we continue the path
Yes.
that every generation
Yes.
continued as
Wow.
well.
Profound.
And maybe, for example, you are at the point of the way that so many girls do this thing, and you continue,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you stop, and you
Yes.
die, but after
Yes.
that you continue.
Yes.
Maybe this is that the things that someone continues, someone don't continue. Maybe I'm in the way of another things.
Oh.
I'm the result of something or something.
I
So
love
was
this.
thinking,
This is so affirming because the reason why I love this mentality is that it's so relaxing to be like, oh, I'm standing on the shoulders of amazing people. Like, what a gorgeous thought. And if you really think about it, each of you are a miracle. How many things have to go right for you to be a human born? I mean, that's ridiculous. Like a true rare gem miracle. Everybody had to be alive, and then somehow you were the one who was born. Wow. And your brain is incredibly intelligent because so much DNA has had to evolve that you're the smartest we have yet. Truly, in this moment, you're the most intelligent that we have. Wow. What an opportunity. And for me, when you say that, it motivates me too. Because I'm like, oh, it's like a relay race. You know when the runners pass the baton? When I have to do my run, it's so liberating to not just run for yourself and your own ego. It's so liberating to be like, I want to respect the work of the 2 runners behind me, and I want to support the person who's going to finish that run strong so we can win the race. And I think being a team is quite a happy experience. And this notion of I'm blocking somebody else or I'm not the one, it's not that you're not the one. It's like, then whatever, that path, like there's multiple paths. The amount of times I go off the path and come back on is ridiculous. It's hilarious. So just trust. Time corrects. Time corrects. Please.
I think it's really liberating to hear the story about you being on your own as well, because I think it's important to know that we make that conscious decision once.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that defines us.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that every time we run you're going to be breathing.
Yeah.
We have that choice.
Yeah, of course, exactly.
The way that we might want to use something or whether or not.
That's right.
So liberating to show that we have choice.
Choice, yes.
What we don't change and we choose.
Yes, and actually it's really funny because sometimes people would put like free-bleeding activist Madame Gandhi, and I'm like, no. My advocacy is not telling everybody to go and free bleed, right? Like, so that's the foolish missed opportunity, exactly what you're saying. The Madame Gandhi is an advocate for freedom. for positivity, for personal power. That is what we're advocating for. For us to choose that things that are good for ourselves, that don't have potential negative ramifications on others, that actually elevate the whole planetary consciousness. So this is a very good thing that you're saying. And I'll also teach you this. Make your art. And make your art, keep making it and putting it out. And don't sit on it, because your own art will be your own teacher to future selves. Like the amount of times that I listen to my own lyrics and I'm like, oh, that's right, okay. It brings me back. My own choices bring me back. And specifically with the marathon, it's been such a healthy journey for myself to be aware, oh, my mood is not so good because I'm on this part of my cycle. Or I'm like super charismatic and activated because I'm on this more fun part of my cycle. Or even the workouts that I'm choosing are going to be more gentle when I'm on this part. But when I'm on this part, let's do those longer runs. Let's go to the boxing gym, right? Like, and even making choices around, you know, how I want to care for myself. What kind of energy level do I have? And then noticing how regular we are. When we're not regular, it's a really healthy, vital sign that we, as women and people who bleed, you know, we get to tap in. Oh, I wasn't sleeping that well this week. That's why I'm so late. I was stressed. I'm not eating right. I'm traveling so much. So it's like a really beautiful indicator that that the blood helps us do. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think as well, if we're open about that as well, it allows then homosexualities to talk about how they feel as well. So it creates that open door.
Yes, yes. The fact that trans men bleed, I mean, that's a huge, radically important conversation that now a lot of the companies are making boxers that allow you to bleed while still honoring your gender identity. You know, it's brilliant. It's so brilliant. And unless we talk about it, see, the thing about capitalism that's so funny is that capitalism is like, cool, gay is cool, no problem. Starbucks has the gay pride flag. You know what I mean? Like, it's hilarious how capitalism works. No problem. You want the folks want to bleed, but they want it to look like this. Let's make it. Like, no problem. So that's the irony of how capitalism works. As long as we destigmatize, they're happy to sell us the product, and instantly it gets integrated into the cultural zeitgeist. So for better or for worse, I always find that a very, like, June comes around in the States, and like Morgan Stanley has the gay pride flag, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess we've arrived, you know. Very funny. Shall we take a 5-minute? Let's take 5 minutes, bathroom break, coffee, all of that. I'll see you guys here. Let's take 10 minutes. I'll see you up here at 3:45. We'll close out with Antarctica, and we'll wrap up at 4. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Karen.
In March, I had the great joy of going to Antarctica, South Pole, penguins, whales, sea lions, incredible natural life. And I actually was invited on the Antarctica trip by a group of folks who run an organization called Daybreaker, and they run this amazing morning dance party. So their whole vibe is we get up at 7 a.m. and we drink matcha and water and party in the morning time. Sober dance party, Daybreaker. And so their whole thing was we want to like charter a boat to Antarctica and bring together 2,000 like influential people and want to give them the experience of a lifetime so they come back to planet Earth, the rest of the world, with a greater impact around climate change. If we show you what the natural planet looks like, you're going to come back and want to make a difference. And for me, when I first was approached with the opportunity, I was a little skeptical. I was like, listen, it sounds like you all just want to party on a boat to Antarctica. This does not sound legit. And so I actually said no the first time. Then they asked me again, it was very sweet and very inclusive. Rarely do we get second chances. And I learned that the founder of Splice, which is a music production software online that allows you to make samples for other people to go and make their music, the founder of Splice was on the ship, and the founder of Satcom. And so there was like a very strategic music opportunity for me. Simultaneous to this whole conversation going on, I had just started my second master's at Stanford at this amazing program called the Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics. And it's sweet, I always say this was my master's. I feel like the first one that I did was like Indian parents vibe, like no problem, I'll go to business school and like check the box for you. To this day, that education absolutely benefits me, and I think we can carve time to talk about business at some point. But I always say this was my master's. You know, it was in the pandemic, it was music, science, and technology. It was my opportunity to make beats, to program and code music, to make electronic music, and just have a personal deep dive to enrich my own career. The reason I got into the program, among many things, was that I had made this sample pack in the pandemic, just recording the sounds of nature and then sculpting the raw audio material into kick drums into hi-hats, into synthesizers, into bass notes, so that other people can take all of this organically sourced sound material and go and make organic beats on their own. And so the thesis ended up becoming, if I can actually make music where the lyrics are good for you and the actual electronics are fully organically sourced, can we really kind of make the world a better place? And in the same way you might go into a grocery store and be like, is this vegan? Is this gluten-free? Is this farm to table? You know, where did the food come from? What if we actually started asking, like, where do our beats come from? Like, you know, is this music good for us? And actually in the line just now at the cafe, we were having a conversation around how nature in the nighttime has designed such a beautiful sleep environment that actually if you go and if you ever slept in nature, you know, it's like this cool, dark, quiet environment, and you have the hum of, you know, cicadas or nighttime insects, and it's a really soothing sound. And I think in the pandemic, we saw a lot of people return to nature, so that inspired that project. So when the Antarctic opportunity came to me that second time, I said yes. And so this is a presentation of how I sort of took the concept of making nature beats the first time and elevated it to go and make some Antarctic beats. Let's begin. So this was the first sound pack that I made. If you go on right now and you're a musician, you can download this pack from the internet, and what it is a bunch of musical notes, bass notes, drum sounds that again are all harvested from raw audio material that I recorded of streams, of pebbles, of twigs, things like that in a forest. This actually went on to win a 2021 award in Los Angeles. Next. So this is the process. Let's begin. So I learned at Stanford in their labs how to make a hydrophone, which is an underwater microphone. And it was just part of one of our early classes where we went to Monterey Bay and actually recorded the sounds of whales singing underwater. And so, you know, you learn how to solder, you learn how to like hit a piezo chip, and you make something that is actually waterproof so that you can record underwater. And this is Antarctica. So we had these incredible small zodiac rafts that you can kind of see in some of the pictures here. It's inflatable, quiet, environmentally safe rafts, and the ship would park very far away from the shore, and then we would clean the shoes that we're wearing. We would change into new shoes because they didn't want any you know, human matter at all to touch Antarctica. They wanted it to be a very clean insurrection. And then we would sail out to land. And so this was one of the first landings, and the sort of environmental protection agency that's out there, you know, there's no like gates or fences, it's just raw land. And the rule is if the penguins come to you, you can interact with them. You can't go up and like try to hang with the penguins. So I remember just like peacefully being very meditative, and sure enough, a penguin joyfully did come up to me, and Hella started singing, and so that was one of the first things that I was able to capture. It was a really, really profound experience. I think one of the things that I learned in that particular experience was, unfortunately today, animals are so afraid of humans. They have been cultivated and learned to be afraid of humans. And actually that's not how it's supposed to be. Maybe the ones who we are predatory towards, but not all animals. And that's because of the way we've evolved, when we take up so much space, and cars and things like that, and chasing. But it was so refreshing to go to a place like Antarctica where there's no humans. And so penguins have no need to be afraid of us. They're just afraid of the sea lions in the ocean who might jump up and eat them. But they weren't afraid of humans. And so it was this like really natural, friendly coexistence that I had never quite seen in another animal before. Right over here, this is where I put down some of the microphones underwater. It was a really, like there were so many unexpected things that came up, like the microphone freezing, so then I had to keep switching them out. Another unexpected thing was that you can't actually turn off the engine of the raft because it creates a safety hazard for everybody on the raft in case the engine doesn't start up again. And so I had to really make friends with the person steering the boat and be like, listen, let's do 30 seconds, let's do 40 seconds, whatever you can get, because if the engine is running, it's not clean audio underwater. And luckily that person was in alignment with the project and they did it. We didn't take too many people on our raft, so they wouldn't, you know, be worried. So this is where I was able to properly record the sounds of glaciers literally melting. I mean, here you can see this is the full body glacier, probably a chunk that has come off of a larger piece. The temperature of the ocean is warming, which is why the glaciers are literally melting. And the opportunity here is, what if I can sample the sound of the planet melting so that we can make music that creates empathy and awareness in our climate? Next slide. again, just showing you the landscape, the beauty, the meditative opportunity, the mesmerizing gorgeousness of a part of the earth that humans have not interacted with. The only other time that I felt like this was when my mom sort of smuggled me into Cuba, not realizing that I have an American passport and that we're not allowed legally to go to Cuba. But she didn't really care, and I was really young, so I just trusted my mom and we went. But when I arrived to Cuba, not that it was a natural setting, but it was not American, in the same way when I go to Hawaii, or so many of these Caribbean islands that have been so Americanized and almost bastardized for the for the vacation culture. When I went to Cuba, there was such a soul. There was not this kind of infiltration of capitalism to the extent that I had seen in other parts of the world. And I felt that similar kind of, like, wow, I didn't know life could be like this feeling when I went to Antarctica. This right here was a very tragic moment, but an important one, which is this sea lion had just jumped up on the glacier and ate a penguin fully. And we all sort of witnessed nature at its finest. The penguin is struggling. It's very violent, right? Because the penguin is struggling for its life. This animal needs to have lunch, and it's bloody, it's grotesque, it's gory. But I think the thing that I learned from that experience again is the bones of the penguin then usually float up onto the shore, and you see penguin bones everywhere. You see ice chips everywhere. And then the material of the penguin bones end up fertilizing and becoming the minerals for the soil that actually keeps everything really fresh and in balance, and ultimately returns back into the ocean. And so there's this sort of properly closed cycle that, again, is natural and by design. And there's so much right now that, you know, as designers, it's important to think about how do we look to nature as sort of the ultimate inspiration for how things are supposed to be. And we as humans have interacted and interrupted so much. And that's fine, we've created amazing things, but we've also created enormous amounts of destruction. And so when we're designing opportunities now for climate, whether it's solar panels or windmills and things like that, how do we come back to a place that restores natural balance with as little human interaction as possible? Because by design, it's quite perfect. Okay, so then I came back to America, and I also forgot to mention that I actually took my mom on the Antarctica trip. So we rode besties, and that was a really fun time. And she's, again, in real musician style, I would always be kind of late to catching the boats to go off into the land, and she would just leave me behind. She would catch the first boat, no problem. So it's always nice to share that, kind of doing things that are meaningful to you with your family, and allowing your own work to expose your family to what you're doing can be a really healthy shift into the classic narrative that we as artists have, which is like, nobody knows what I'm doing in the world, like my parents have no idea where I am. Like, that's a classic rhetoric that we hear all the time, and it's like, okay, cool. What if we invite them? What if we inspire them just by having them be participants in the process? And to this day, I have to say that was a really beautiful moment for us, because now for my November tour, my mom is like hella selling tickets to her friends for my show, so it's like when we bring our families into what we're doing, it can be a really huge, healthy opportunity for change. So this is the listening room in Stanford. It's this amazing 360 space. And again, I mentioned that I mixed my most recent album, Vibrations in 360, which was before the Antarctica time, but the program at Stanford has been doing, atmospheric sound and immersive sound for like 30 years. And so to bring it to kind of this famous institution to do this project was like a real honor. We played back the Antarctica sounds. I had a team of students helping me decide, which ones had the cleanest audio, which audio needed to be cleaned up, which sounds would be good for drum opportunities, which sounds would be good for synthesizers, which sounds would be good to make bass sounds. Continue. So this is Ableton Live. Again, I don't know if there's any musicians in the room, but this is the software that I love producing my music on. And so the process is really, how do you take the raw organic sound material and sculpt it? So you're not adding anything to the sounds, you're just literally sculpting it. In the same way I might give you a piece of clay and I might say, make me a cup. I gave you a piece of Antarctica sound and I said, make me something that sounds like a snare drum. That's the opportunity. And so, again, we created our own rules, which is like what's allowed versus not, and it's exactly that. Like, you can't like add anything. It's just make something out of the sound. So I made like a penguin synthesizer. You can see it's this penguin wave up there. So we filter a penguin sound through a bunch of different audio effects, and then out comes like rah, 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 and I'll play the sound later. It's very musical. Over here, I took basically like an empty 4x4 and just started dropping little snippets of sounds that I found. So you can see pebble, snow stomp, Gentoo is the name of the penguin species that was down there, reverse splash. And what this does is now allow me to have an electronic drum kit that's entirely made of Antarctica sound. Again, here, now we're starting to make beats out of the Antarctica sound. So what this map is musical time, and it's just creating like, you know, whatever the beat is, you're just laying out the map of what the sound is going to be. Yep, continue. And now I can, you know that MP3 that I messaged you in the email, do we have that? Let's do it.
Very nice sound.
Thank you.
Penguin 1.
I invite you to close your eyes and just sort of receive the music as a meditation. Give this pack in April of 2024 for Earth Day around that time, and the idea is that musicians around the world can download and make their own Antarctica beats. That'd be very cool. Yes.
Where is it? Would it be available?
Oh, okay, Splice.com. Yeah, Splice. So it's one of those things where you just grab an account and then you can grab it. I appreciate that. You should, if you're a musician, you should grab the pack that's already there on Madame Gandhi Splice, and you can hear a lot of similar sounds to that, but from the forest. Thank you. Anyone else? Reflections, thoughts?
I love that it sounds like wet.
Yes.
It sounds like you start to like visualize these kind of like creatures and like yetis and stuff.
Yes.
Just, like, getting down to the drum kit and just squelching stuff and then like something scraping, you know.
Wow, it sounds like we have to make a music video together for the Antarctica Beats project. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It feels
And G-Rock.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
But I want to ask if we don't know that we go to Antarctica,
Yeah.
really we understand it or not? Because I visualize because I know that you were and
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So the idea of this project is like in the same way as a vegan who at one point definitely ate hamburgers, I love a good Beyond Burger. I'm like known for this. I just love a good Beyond Burger, and that's because of all the brands, they finally got it right. And so I've listened to a lot of like nature sounds, and it's boring, and it's neither here nor there because I'm not in nature, and it's not interesting enough as an audio recording to pique my interest. And so the opportunity here is, how do we make beats and traditional things that like the producers for Rihanna and all of them are producing with, because they're on Splice searching drum packs and synthesizers of other things, how can we provide them and design a different alternative for them? And so even if their entire beat is not made from nature sounds, how cool would it be if the next Gaga track has hi-hats from this pack that are sampled from the ocean? And the opportunity here too is that everyone who buys the pack, a portion will go to a climate change organization. So it's both and. For the folks who dig deeper, they're like, wow, this is so cool, this is from Antarctica. But I actually don't need them to know about Antarctica, otherwise I would put the sounds out raw as they are. The opportunity is to make beats out of the organic sound material. Thank you. Yes?
Yeah, thank you so much. So lovely to hear such a unusual sound in use and putting into the problems. And also that thing that we think about a while is there's so much untapped kind of mystery, and you see that we're not dealing with because it's that kind of, it's not on air kind of in our everyday. So these sounds from different parts of the world which are which really kind of illustrate how there's all these like natural intelligence out there that we can just take from, which is so nice to bring that into our
Yes, I love it. I love the idea of natural intelligence. That's very cool. That's very beautiful. And I appreciate you saying the sounds were textural, because I feel good when I listen to these beats, for sure. And I appreciate that they reference electronic sounds that we have today, but they just have this kind of three-dimensionality to them that a lot of the regular synthesized music now is lacking. Thank you. Yes?
It's just amazing how, like, I feel like there's a storyline, like, why just speak without even saying a word? I just tried to, like, listen and, like, look for this. You said that you recorded the sound of the ice melting.
Yes.
And then, yeah, when the beat started getting faster, like, it gives a message.
Wow.
Without saying anything. It's brilliant. Wow. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Amazing.
Very good. Final thoughts? Closing? I know we had one more shift, or do we have to wrap? What's your timing like?
We don't have to wrap up, it's up to you to be honest.
Should we address that last question you were mentioning to me in the cafe?
Yeah, we can do. And it's a bit of a departure from what we've just been thinking about. And I was kind of wondering about this a bit earlier on. And I suppose there's two parts to it. One is as you started the presentation, we were talking about how different parts of your life have kind of formed who you are and the way that you kind of situate yourself and think about yourself and your trajectory and your direction. And one of the things that you've mentioned, kind of in passing so far, is this MBA that you did. So this kind of role of business that you've studied. You mentioned it wasn't really your MA of choice, perhaps. It was something that's sort of complementary. But it is definitely, the role of business is something that comes up in our sessions, from time to time as being, kind of a critical point of opportunity, perhaps. Yes. So in many ways, capitalism is currently, I think, has a lot to account for. That's problematic. There's lots of really problematic legacies that still exist that are absolutely intrinsic to capitalist systems and models. But then we also kind of quite often talk about, well, what are the alternatives? How do we create like a version of capitalism 2.0, or how do we kind of work with the best elements of what exists? And certainly there's a recognition that one of the reasons that capitalism kind of survives is because it adapts and it evolves, and it is this fantastic kind of shapeshifter in a sense. Yes. But I was kind of curious about where you position yourself in relation to business. As something that you've studied and now as an activist, do you kind of tap into some of those kind of insights and utilize them for change, or are they, is there a bit more of an active departure, or what's your relationship with it?
No, I really appreciate this question. Thank you. I mean, do we hate all companies? Like, no, not at all. Like, there's plenty of companies that I love. And I'm like, I love the shoes that you're making. I love the app that you're making. Like, there's so many things, companies that are delivering value, and I think this generation, more so than ever, is really pushing companies to do things ethically and responsibly. There's a lot more transparency on the way clothing is made, where is it made, whose labor is contributing to it, with apps, who's funding it, different projects that I think you have to know what is your own value system and what are you here to do in the world before you know where you're going to align. And now I have a team, I have an agency who I do a lot of brand partnerships with. And they understand they're not going to bring the like Madame Gandhi $1 million deal. They're not going to bring McDonald's to Madame Gandhi, right? Like there's just so many places where it's such a hard no matter how much money it is, and places where it's a yes. And you know, even a recent example, I was invited to go be in a Haagen-Dazs commercial and score the music. And I was like, no problem, like my dad loves Haagen-Dazs, like that's sort of in alignment, fine, you know, I'll participate. But then on camera, they want me to eat the product, which they don't have a vegan version, and now it's been 3-4 years of eating only plant-based. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to give other people diabetes with this ice cream. Like, I think I'm cool to not be part of that, you know? And so probably liberating to be like, it's actually a hard line no. And what happens, then it creates space and it creates even deeper value for you when you say yes. Like, we did an amazing project with the North Face. They were promoting female climbers, and again, they used my song, The Future is Female, to show incredible women literally climbing mountains, like just super inspiring campaign. The music that I scored most recently for an MSNBC documentary periodical. So what I share that with you because as you begin your art career, you'll have your art, you know, maybe be on display somewhere. That's just literally your self-expression. It's your container, your space to keep getting better at your craft, your art. And then the idea is, how do I take this art and possibly apply it to what a brand is doing? Possibly do the next ad campaign for a brand who actually has a huge opportunity to positively shift the world. I mean, in the US, when we have the Super Bowl, the amount of eyes that are on these ads is just unbelievable. And for better or for worse, media is a huge opportunity to shift how we do things. I'll never forget when I spoke at an ad agency, and then 2 weeks later, they offered my song, Yellow Sea, to be in a Starbucks campaign. And again, I'm like, are you selling Frappuccinos and we're giving everybody diabetes? Like, I don't want to be part of that. Like, I don't want my music to be with hella caramel and like junk for people. I wouldn't want my family to eat that. I wouldn't want my kids to eat that. Like, you know. And they were like, no, relax. It's just black coffee. It's iced nitro cold brew. And I was like, oh, I love iced nitro cold brew. Okay, yes. And it was this amazing opportunity where my music, again, was super exposed through something that I actually would joyfully drink myself. And so I always think about my music and my art as, it's my joy to take what I do and actually participate with brands that I like what they're doing, because ultimately it's a two-way street. It's exposure, it's the opportunity to create positive influence, it's the opportunity to, of course, finance all of the other stuff that I'm doing. And you know, a lot of these music videos were made because of different brand partnerships that I've done, whether I'm in the actual ad myself, as myself, drumming or whatever. Even Adidas, like I was boxing for a while, they cast me in like a commercial, boxing and drumming, and they cast a male boxing coach. And I was like, listen, this is such an opportunity for you to cast a female boxing coach. What difference does it make? Let's show something different. And they listened. And again, you know, that was a brand opportunity, but now the commercial has 2 women boxing, which alone subliminally is quite profound. So these are ways that I try to strategically and intelligently fund my art without conflating the two. It's not like I'm asking the brands to go and fund my own music and my own music videos, because then there is a conflict of interest. It becomes a lot harder. But what I try to do is keep making my art so that then the brands know, okay, Madame Gandhi is the destination for consciousness, for positivity, for gender liberation, for activism, these kinds of things. And for the previous project, I even scored a perfume commercial because they loved the nature sounds, and so they had me sample the bottles of the perfume and make the whole soundtrack to the commercial using like droplets and like glass bottle sounds from the actual 5 perfumes in the campaign. So I just give that as an example. It's like, stay on the path, because the brands, they have hella like media decks trying to find the cool kids on Instagram to like put in their ad campaigns. Hopefully they're not stealing all of our art and they're actually coming directly to us. But that's an immediate way that I can answer this question that feels authentic to how we participate in capitalism.
So you are accurate that the company just wants the gain. And they, for example, the clothes that you wear, I know the story that behind that, the Gucci and Adidas work together.
Yeah.
Because to show the people that there is no poor brand or rich brand, we are all together and want human to be together. But
that's fake.
I don't believe
Yeah. That's
actually.
I want to
say all the people are the same.
Sure, I definitely agree with you. 100% accurate. True.
Yes. Just they want to use us and we use them too.
I think there's a lot of that. But I'm not in agreement with you that we have to participate in that. I think we all have to understand what is our role. I remember being asked to be in a Gap ad, and at that time I had like super buzz cut pink hair, and I had a super tomboy, very queer, androgynous aesthetic. And that Gap ad was like a floor to ceiling in Times Square of me playing my drums. And I remember feeling very ethically conflicted about it, because on the one hand, Gap was notorious for really bad fast fashion practices. And on the other hand, it's one of the biggest media opportunities in the world, because advertising is a place for us to really show different things. And so then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, like, where is my value in alignment? It's not like it's a ton of money. It's really not about the money question. It's where is the opportunity? And so for me, it was a very clear choice. The opportunity is, when I was growing up, there was definitely no Indian people starring in Gap ads. It was very white, and there was definitely no queer Indian people, and definitely no gender non-conforming people. And so for me, I had to be very clear as to what I was doing in making that decision, because the second when it went up, of course, everybody's trolling my Instagram, like, Gap has really bad ethical practices. For me, I knew it was an opportunity to shape the way that we understand gender in media and representation in media. So I don't fully agree with you that everything is bad and we can't participate. I think nuance is okay. I think self-awareness is okay. I think radically saying no is empowering, but we'll stay saying no forever. So there's a lane through which we can choose to participate. At least that's the principle that I've taken on.
Yes, I just don't say no to everything. No, if I had enough money, I totally buy and something. Yes, I totally. Like, if they use me, I use them too. As we say, unfortunately.
But is that the world we want to live in? Like, do we want to be mutually using each other? Like, I don't know if that's the vibe. Like, I don't want to use anybody.
No, it's. I think it's kind of because of my language, because it's my second language. I can't really.
Okay, fine. You're just saying participate, maybe.
Maybe.
We got
one last question, I think.
Yes.
And then we'll have to.
On that from the get-go, maybe the comments that you got. How do you feel about the comments? How do you?
That's why you have to be aligned first. You have to be aligned first.
Yes. Do you respond in that?
Good question. I actually don't.
Just let them.
Yeah. Because I also understand my art as an opportunity for people to just participate. I never participate in social media comments ever. I leave the negative ones too. I don't take it so personally, and that's why I also had to go and make my own personal Instagram, like, for my friends and family with like 50 people on there. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is my sweet space for like just my activities, and this is like the Madame Gandhi presentation. Thank you. I thought there was one other hand. I know you've asked a question before. I wanted to make sure someone hasn't spoken. Yes, please.
Yeah, I have 2 questions.
Yes, and I'll answer them super quickly.
Don't worry, it's fine.
So, can I?
Yeah, go for it.
Of course.
One of them is related to what you answered here. You said that I don't see, like, we as humans, we have to use each other, or use brands, or brands uses us. But do you think this is the way we live now?
They were all using each other?
We're all using each other, countries using each other, but it's all depends on the benefits. Even in the way your country and here, the way it rules, it's like capitalism. Who have money owns everything. So it's like you said that I don't want to use you. Sure. You are used. And you've been using them. So it's like, I don't know what to say, it's like it's conflict matter that you can't even find yourself. That's what's happening.
I agree. There's a lot of problematic systems in the world that we're just by being born with a social security number, you're immediately spat out into the matrix. Correct.
And the problem is, whenever I want to find myself into something, like, whenever I like something, or I feel like I'm good at something, and I start thinking about this something and see how it goes, and I see that, oh, at the end, this thing is gonna be benefit for this organization, so this organization will do this to other people, so I start living in this too. That's why whenever someone tells me what do you want to do or what they want to be, like, silence, you know? So this is one question.
No, but let me answer it. You are the antidote. Don't you, like, exactly when you say that, you're the medicine. Like, we definitely need you to do the thing so that this thing influences this thing, and because you can't predict how things go. There was countries that used to exist before I was born that don't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Like exactly what you're saying is affirming. You're giving me goosebumps. Like, it's exactly correct. Like, if we all say, well, forget it because everything is completely effed. It's going to keep getting worse. Like, may we each step into our power with great bravery. And it's not about ignorance. It's not about like toxic positivity and lack of awareness. It's about a healthy distance from all of the chaos of the news so that you actually have something to contribute without wanting to give up before we even start. And you're absolutely right. Even this whole last 10 days, my whole Instagram is Israel-Palestine. My whole Instagram. I deleted Instagram for 10 days. Because at the beginning, of course, an intelligent, healthy conversation around these debates is absolutely required because people are dying. And humans are very small-minded, and all of these opinions are just printing more and more ad dollars for Instagram. The more that we stay fighting on Instagram, thinking that our voices are so important on these certain topics, the more the ad dollars are pouring in for these companies. So they're thrilled to keep serving up the more vitriolic, hateful messages because humans naturally are going to want to respond. And the joke is on us, and we are being used, 100% correct. And so there has to be a pause, because even for me, it's quite funny. I did an event the other day, and they're like, Madame Gandhi, you didn't post your event from the brand. And I responded, I was so mad. I was like, the audacity. No one's posting about brands right now. Like, your brand is gonna look so dumb if I post some dumb brand thing, you know? You're lucky that I didn't post it. And so then they're like, Madame Gandhi, that doesn't matter. The contract says you have to post it October 19th. So then I had to download Instagram and quickly throw it on my story and delete it again. I think you have to be brave to construct your own reality. Don't give up. Please.
That's like, I'm not saying that I'm giving now, just I'm saying that I wanna do something. I don't wanna die like anyone else. Just I wanna achieve something at least, or like start something. But in these days, what I'm trying to say, in these days, you don't know if you're doing something good or bad. You know, you got me. You feel like, I love this. I wanna do this. I wanna achieve this. And when you leave this thing, and when you leave the starters of this thing, someone come and complete on it, and he change it to another view, another point of view, and another look, and another side. So you started to be the first step of something is evil. I'm overthinking. So
it's okay. I think you can't predict and you can't hedge against a hypothetical. You have to walk the path. I think it's good for you to walk the path. And for me, the whole point of being young and the whole point of being artists is that healthy naivete, exactly the unawareness that you're talking about, and that healthy, positive, I'm going to change the world is the whole point of being young. And then, absolutely, when you get knocked sideways by something that humbles you, that embarrasses you, the amount of bad talks that I've given until the good ones start to come, the amount of bad songs that I've made until the good ones start to come that actually get licensed, the amount of bad music videos I've made until the ones that start winning award-winning, places, festivals. You have to walk the path. You have to walk the path. And trust that you're intelligent enough that when information comes into your plate, you can make the shift. Even in my own language, I've had to make so many shifts to be more aware of how to be inclusive, to design for a better experience for other people, to make sure that my message is being consumed in the way that I intend for it to be consumed. And it's also the reason why I stay saying yes to different opportunities, because then I keep refining. Oh, that didn't resonate. Let's not say that the next time. Oh, this really resonates in India, but it's not needed in San Francisco. Oh, okay, cool. You start to shift. So walk the path and trust yourself that you can make the necessary adjustments, for sure. Oh, good. Thank you. Great questions. Very good.
Last questions. We're going to have lots of last questions.
I know that to get here for who you are is not easy for your journey. And also, like, you're in the music entertainment industry, so it's normal. I believe that every career, you have people who support you, who like you, and on the other hand, you have people who try to take you down and don't like your music, don't like your song as well. So, what message do you want to give to the person who are in
the
that situations?
Madame Gandhi, what do you want to say to the haters? Is that what you're asking me?
No. Like, what kind of message that you want to give, like, who are in these situations, like, they are how to believe in yourself. Why everyone turn your back, turn their back.
This is a really deep and important question. Are y'all listening? This is really important. You have to be so strong in your own confidence, and I almost have to train it daily because the negative voices are so loud. Like, that's what makes us great artists, is that somehow everything was saying no, and you made a choice to be brave. That's how the self-confidence gets every day, slightly engineered better and better. And I always used to think it used to come from surrounding myself with people who affirm me. Of course, you want that in your life. But it's been the meditation, quieting and affirming. It's been breath work, deep breath work. Nadi Shodhana, opposite nostril breathing, breath of fire, playing super loud music with drums, and breathing like a champion. Because what happens when you do that is it clears out the mind and allows you to redirect the positive thoughts that you want to actually affirm and be the boss of how you want to be thinking. And so everything is a projection from within. If I think I look bad that day, that's the reality I manifest. If I think I look like a queen that day, everyone's like, wow, you're so beautiful. I really love your outfit. Who does your hair? You're like, you could be wearing identically the same thing both yesterday and today, but it's in the mental. So the second that you are able to believe in yourself when other people put their negative, two things happen. One is, if it's good feedback, you can just receive it. You're not knocked sideways because your ego is so sad. If they're giving you feedback like, hey, Madame Gandhi, I think it'd be sick if you start with the chorus. You're not like, oh, I can't believe you don't like my music. You're like, oh, good idea. I will do that. You can receive it. And then the other thing happens, which is, if they're projecting their own negative thoughts onto you, you can tell it doesn't belong to you. There are so many times when people are like, I can't believe, like, everyone's recorded nature sounds. You're not doing anything new, okay? I've had that. You're not doing anything new. People have recorded nature sounds. I said, this is how you're talking to yourself. That's why you're not putting out your own music. Imagine if I said that to myself, I'm like, well, other people have recorded nature sounds. But the truth is that I've never heard other people go to Antarctica and make electronic beats out of nature sounds. Ableton Live has only been available for 7 years, or 10 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, we all have to walk the path. I'm going to influence whomever, and it's going to influence the next person. So the spiritual answer is calm the quiet voices within, and the pragmatic answer is keep walking the path with bravery. Did we do it? Are we done?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.